incredible how he brought in a success because he knew exactly who his father needs to contact and to talk to.
And he's always been a very good student, he's smart, and so we'll be letting you know very soon.
The morning sun struggled to pierce through the gray clouds over the small, cluttered apartment where Emma Thompson sat at her kitchen table, her head cradled in her hands. Bills were spread out before her, a patchwork of red ink warnings and ominous final notices. Emma, a single mother of 2 young children, felt as though she were drowning. Every day was a struggle to keep food on the table, clothes on her children's backs, and a roof over their heads. But now even those basics were slipping through her fingers. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Emma's life hadn't always been this way. A few years earlier, she'd been married, living in a modest but comfortable home, and managing to stay on top of her finances. But after her husband left without warning, she found herself thrust into a whirlwind of responsibilities she had never faced alone. Despite working 2 jobs, she couldn't seem to make ends meet. Her youngest, Ellie, needed medicine for her asthma, and her older son, Max, had outgrown his shoes weeks ago. That morning, as she shuffled through the mail, Emma came across a glossy magazine that someone had left behind on the subway. The cover story featured Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, accompanied by the headline, "Philanthropy and Legacy, Barron's Vision for America's Youth." Emma nearly tossed it aside, but something about the image of Barron's serene, confident face caught her eye. She skimmed the article, learning about his recent initiatives to support struggling families through partnerships with various charities. Desperation breeds audacity, Emma thought. What if she reached out to him? It sounded crazy. What were the odds that someone like Barron Trump would even see her message, let alone care? But the alternative, doing nothing, felt worse. With a deep breath, Emma grabbed an old laptop and began typing a heartfelt letter. She poured her soul into her words, explaining her circumstances without shame or pretense. She told him about Ellie's asthma and Max's worn-out shoes, about the nights she spent crying herself to sleep because she felt she was failing her children. "I'm not asking for a miracle," she wrote. "I just need help getting back on my feet." Emma sent the email, more a prayer than a genuine expectation. She figured she'd never hear back, but at least she'd tried. Then she returned to the grind of her day, juggling her job at a diner and cleaning houses on weekends to make extra cash. Days turned into weeks, and Emma began to forget about the email. Life continued to batter her, each small setback compounding her sense of hopelessness. Then one afternoon, as she was folding laundry in the living room, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and froze. The email subject line read, "From the office of Barron Trump." Her hands trembled as she opened the message. It was brief but polite, signed by a representative from Barron's office. It said Barron had read her letter personally and wanted to arrange a phone call to discuss her situation further. Emma reread the message multiple times, her heart pounding in disbelief. Was this real? Could someone like Barron Trump truly have taken an interest in her plight? 2 days later, she found herself on the phone with a calm, courteous voice that introduced itself as Barron. Emma had braced herself for condescension or a sense of superiority, but instead, Barron's tone was warm and genuine. "I was moved by your letter," he said. "You're doing everything you can for your children, and I admire that. Let's see how we can help." Emma's eyes filled with tears as they talked. Barron asked thoughtful questions about her children, her work, and her immediate needs. He didn't rush her or make her feel small. Instead, he listened with patience and empathy. When she hesitated to share specific details, worried about sounding greedy, he gently reassured her. "I want to help, Emma. Please don't hold back." The next week was a whirlwind. Barron's team moved quickly, arranging for Emma to receive assistance with her rent and utilities, along with a generous stipend for groceries and other essentials. But what truly shocked Emma was Barron's insistence on meeting her and her children in person. "I'd like to visit if you're comfortable with that," he said during one of their calls. Emma couldn't believe it. What would someone like Barron Trump want with her small, chaotic apartment in a rundown neighborhood? But he seemed sincere, so she agreed. The day of Barron's visit, Emma was a nervous wreck. She cleaned the apartment as best as she could, apologizing in advance for its modesty. When Barron arrived, accompanied by just one security detail, Emma was struck by his unassuming demeanor. He wasn't the aloof, privileged figure she had imagined. Instead, he greeted her with a firm handshake and a kind smile, kneeling down to introduce himself to Max and Ellie. The children warmed to him immediately, especially Max, who couldn't stop asking questions about Barron's life and his work. Barron answered every question with patience, even joking with Max about how hard it had been to learn to tie a tie when he was younger. Ellie, shy at first, eventually climbed onto Barron's lap to show him her favorite picture book. As they talked, Barron revealed that he had a special plan for Emma and her kids. "I've arranged for a long-term solution," he said. He explained that he had partnered with a local nonprofit to provide Emma with job training in a field she was passionate about. "I want you to have the tools to build a future for yourself and your children," he said. "This isn't just about giving you money, it's about helping you regain your independence." Emma could hardly speak. The weight she had carried for so long suddenly felt lighter, as though she could breathe for the first time in years. Barron didn't just see her as a charity case, he saw her potential, her resilience, and her determination to provide a better life for her children. Over the following months, Barron continued to stay in touch. His team helped Emma enroll in a vocational program for medical billing and coding, a field she had always been interested in but had never pursued because of financial constraints. They also set up a college savings account for Max and Ellie, ensuring that their futures would be more secure. Barron's generosity extended beyond material support. He became a mentor to Max, sending him books and offering advice about school. Ellie, meanwhile, received a new set of art supplies, which quickly became her most treasured possession. For Emma, the transformation was profound. She no longer felt like a victim of her circumstances. Instead, she felt empowered to take control of her life. With Barron's help, she completed her training and secured a stable job with benefits. She even managed to save enough money to move her family into a safer, more spacious apartment. The day Emma graduated from her training program, Barron sent her a bouquet of flowers with a handwritten note that read, "This is just the beginning. I'm proud of you." Emma often thought back to the day she had written that desperate email, marveling at how a single act of vulnerability had changed her life. She never expected that someone like Barron Trump would care about someone like her, but his kindness and humility had proven her wrong. As time went on, Emma made it her mission to pay forward the kindness she had received. She volunteered at the same nonprofit that had helped her, mentoring other single mothers who were struggling to find their footing. And whenever she told her story, she made sure to highlight the man who had given her hope when she needed it most. Barron's reaction to her plea had been more than heartwarming. It had been life-changing. For Emma and her children, it was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there are people willing to lend a hand and help you rise. And for Barron, it was a testament to the power of compassion and the profound impact one person can have on another's life. As the weeks turned into months, Emma's life began to take on a rhythm that no longer felt dictated by crisis. The first signs of stability came in small moments, like buying Ellie a brand new jacket for the winter instead of combing through secondhand stores, or making pancakes for Max on a Saturday morning without worrying if the money spent on syrup would stretch until the next paycheck. Each day carried a sense of progress, of climbing out of the hole she had been in for so long. It felt miraculous, but Emma knew better than to chalk it up to miracles. This was the result of kindness, hard work, and someone believing in her when she didn't know how to believe in herself. Barron Trump's involvement, however, didn't end after those initial gestures of help. He had a way of showing his genuine interest in their progress without making Emma feel like a charity case. Every few weeks, she'd get a text or an email from him asking about the kids, her job training, or even just what was going on in their lives. It was casual, friendly, and never intrusive, but it was enough to remind Emma that someone out there cared about her family's well-being. One morning, as Emma was walking Max and Ellie to school, her son turned to her with a question that caught her completely off guard. "Do you think Mr. Barron will ever come back to visit us?" Max asked, his voice full of hope. Emma paused for a moment. She had no idea. Barron had never made any promises about more visits, but his initial visit had left a profound impression on both children. They had talked about it for weeks afterward, Max especially. He'd started reading the books Barron had sent him, poring over the pages with an intensity Emma hadn't seen in him before. Barron had sparked something in him, a curiosity about the wider world and a sense that he too could aspire to great things. "I don't know," Emma admitted, squeezing Max's hand gently, "but I think he'd be happy to know you're thinking about him." Max nodded thoughtfully as if weighing her answer. "I want to show him my report card," he said finally. "I got an A in math. I think he'd like that." Emma felt her heart swell with pride. Max's grades had improved dramatically since Barron's involvement. Whether it was the books, the encouragement, or simply the knowledge that someone outside their family believed in him, something had clicked for Max, and Emma couldn't have been more grateful. Later that week, Emma decided to send Barron an email. She didn't ask for anything. She simply wanted to share an update on how they were doing. She told him about Max's improved grades and Ellie's newfound love of painting with the art supplies he had gifted her. She even attached a picture of one of Ellie's creations, a whimsical drawing of their family standing under a bright yellow sun. Barron's response came almost immediately. "This made my day," he wrote. "Thank you for sharing. Tell Max I'm proud of him and tell Ellie her artwork is beautiful. I'd love to visit again sometime soon." True to his word, Barron arranged another visit, this time inviting Emma and the kids to a nearby community event where he was scheduled to speak about his philanthropic initiatives. When Emma hesitated, worried that they'd feel out of place among the polished crowd, Barron reassured her. "You and your family are exactly the kind of people this is all about," he said. "Your story is important." The event was held in a spacious auditorium adorned with banners promoting the foundation Barron had recently established to support single parents and struggling families. Emma was struck by how genuine Barron seemed as he addressed the crowd. Speaking not from a teleprompter, but from the heart, he shared stories of families he'd met through his work, including Emma's, though he didn't name her directly. His words carried a message of hope and resilience, emphasizing that no one should have to face life's challenges alone. When the speech was over, Barron made his way to where Emma and the kids were seated near the front. He greeted them warmly, kneeling down to Max and Ellie's level to ask about school and their hobbies. Max shyly handed Barron his report card, which Barron examined with an approving smile. "An A in math?" he said, his tone impressed. "That's incredible, Max. You should be very proud of yourself." Max beamed, standing a little taller. Emma could hardly contain her gratitude. It wasn't just the financial help Barron had provided. It was the way he treated her children, with respect and encouragement, as if they were capable of anything. The event also brought an unexpected opportunity for Emma. While mingling with other attendees, she was introduced to a woman who ran a local organization dedicated to supporting working mothers. The woman was impressed by Emma's story and her determination to turn her life around. By the end of the evening, she had offered Emma a part-time position with flexible hours to supplement her income while she completed her training. It was another small step forward, another piece of the puzzle falling into place. As Emma and her kids settled into their new normal, she began to reflect on how much her perspective had changed since Barron entered their lives. She no longer felt like a passive participant in her own story, buffeted by circumstances beyond her control. Instead, she felt like an active agent of change, someone capable of shaping her family's future. And as she grew stronger, she found herself wanting to extend the same kindness she had received to others. Emma started volunteering regularly at the nonprofit Barron had connected her with, sharing her experiences with other single mothers who were navigating similar struggles. She became something of an unofficial mentor, offering practical advice and emotional support to women who often felt as overwhelmed and hopeless as she once had. She also encouraged them to believe in their own resilience and to seek out the resources they needed without shame or hesitation. One woman in particular, a young mother named Jessica, reminded Emma of herself. Jessica had 2 toddlers and was working long hours at a job that barely paid minimum wage. She confided in Emma about her fears of losing her apartment and her guilt over not being able to spend more time with her kids. Emma listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and sharing the steps she had taken to improve her own situation. When Jessica eventually enrolled in the same vocational program Emma had completed, she credited Emma with giving her the confidence to take that leap. Seeing Jessica's progress filled Emma with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. It was proof that the ripple effect of Barron's help extended far beyond her own family. Meanwhile, Barron continued to expand his philanthropic work. Inspired by stories like Emma's, he launched a nationwide initiative aimed at providing job training, affordable childcare, and emergency financial assistance to single parents. He often spoke publicly about the importance of addressing systemic barriers that kept families trapped in cycles of poverty, using his platform to advocate for meaningful change. Emma was invited to speak at one of these events, sharing her story with a room full of policymakers, activists, and donors. Standing at the podium, she felt a wave of nervousness, but then she looked out into the crowd and saw Barron giving her an encouraging nod. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice steady and clear. "I'm here today because someone took the time to see me," she said. "Not just my struggles, but my potential. And because of that, my children and I have a future we can look forward to. I want to thank Barron Trump for believing in us and for showing us that kindness can change lives." Her words were met with a standing ovation, and afterwards several attendees approached her to thank her for sharing her journey. Among them was a young man who had grown up in foster care and was now working to establish a similar foundation in his community. Emma was struck by how many people had their own stories of struggle and resilience, and she left the event feeling deeply connected to a larger movement of people striving to make the world a better place. Back at home, life continued to improve. Emma eventually moved into a managerial role at her job, earning enough to start saving for the first time in years. Max continued to excel in school, and Ellie's artistic talents blossomed. Their apartment was filled with her drawings, each one a testament to the joy and creativity that had returned to their lives. As for Barron, he remained a constant presence in their lives, not as a savior, but as a friend. He would occasionally send postcards from his travels, each one signed with a personal note for Max and Ellie. The kids kept them in a small wooden box, treasuring them as reminders of the man who had shown them that even the most powerful people can be kind and humble. Years later, when Emma looked back on that pivotal time in her life, she often marveled at how much had changed. What had begun as a desperate plea for help had turned into a journey of transformation, not just for her family, but for the countless others who had been inspired by their story. And at the heart of it all was Barron Trump, a young man who had seen a struggling single mother not as a statistic, but as a person deserving of dignity, opportunity, and hope. His reaction to her plea had been more than heartwarming. It had been a catalyst for change, a reminder of what is possible when compassion and action come together. For Emma, Max, and Ellie, it was proof that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. And sometimes, that light comes from the most unexpected places. As Emma and her family settled into a new chapter of their lives, the ripples of Barron Trump's influence continued to shape their world in profound and unexpected ways. What had begun as an act of charity had grown into a relationship built on mutual respect and inspiration, and its effects extended far beyond the bounds of their small apartment. Max, now deeply inspired by the encouragement he had received from Barron, started to take on new challenges at school. His teacher, noticing his enthusiasm and curiosity, recommended him for an advanced placement program in mathematics. When Max came home with the letter inviting him to join the program, he couldn't stop smiling. "I think Mr. Barron would be proud," he said, holding the letter as if it were a golden ticket. Emma agreed, and she emailed Barron to share the news. Barron responded almost immediately, offering his congratulations and sending Max a thoughtful gift, a set of books on engineering and problem solving, along with a handwritten note that read, "The future is yours to shape, Max. Never stop asking questions." Max dove into the books with the same intensity he had shown after Barron's first visit. He began building small projects at home, using whatever materials he could find. Soon, the dining table was covered in makeshift circuits and towers of plastic and cardboard. Emma couldn't help but smile as she watched her son's confidence grow with every new creation. Ellie, too, began to blossom in her own unique way. Her drawings, which had once been simple and cheerful, began to show a depth and complexity that hinted at her developing artistic talent. Emma decided to enroll her in a local art class, something she never would have been able to afford before Barron's intervention. Ellie thrived in the new environment, her sketches and paintings becoming more vibrant and detailed with each passing week. One day, Ellie surprised Emma with a portrait she had drawn. It was of their family, but she had included Barron in the scene, standing beside them with the same kind smile he had shown when he first visited their home. Ellie presented the drawing to Emma with a proud grin. "Do you think he'll like it?" she asked. Emma's throat tightened with emotion. "I think he'll love it," she said. Ellie insisted on mailing the drawing to Barron, who later responded with a photo of the picture framed and displayed in his office. "It's a masterpiece," he wrote, and Ellie beamed when Emma read his email aloud. As the months turned into years, Emma's connection with Barron and his initiatives grew deeper. She became a regular speaker at events organized by his foundation, sharing her story to inspire others and highlight the importance of providing resources for struggling families. Her speeches were always met with warmth and applause, but what touched her most were the one-on-one conversations she had afterward. People from all walks of life approached her to share their own stories of hardship and resilience. Single parents who felt seen for the first time, donors moved by her words to contribute more generously, and young adults who had grown up in difficult circumstances but were determined to make a difference. Emma found herself becoming a part of something larger, a community bound by shared struggles and a collective determination to create change. One particularly poignant moment came when Emma met a young woman named Carla at one of these events. Carla, a college student juggling classes and 2 part-time jobs, confided in Emma about her fears of dropping out due to financial strain. She had dreams of becoming a social worker, but felt like those dreams were slipping away. Emma listened carefully and then shared her own experiences of feeling trapped and hopeless. "It's okay to ask for help," she told Carla. "Sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do." Emma later introduced Carla to Barron, who arranged for her to receive a scholarship through his foundation. A year later, Carla graduated with honors, sending Emma a heartfelt letter thanking her for the encouragement and guidance. These experiences reinforced Emma's belief in the power of kindness and community. She began to see herself not just as someone who had been helped, but as someone who could help others. It was a transformation she never could have imagined when she had first sat down to write that desperate email. Meanwhile, Barron's foundation continued to grow. Inspired by Emma's story and others like it, he launched new programs focused on providing comprehensive support for families in need. These initiatives included affordable housing projects, access to quality childcare, and scholarships for vocational training. Barron frequently credited the families he had met as the driving force behind these efforts, often citing Emma's resilience as a source of personal inspiration. Despite his growing responsibilities, Barron remained deeply connected to Emma and her children. He visited them periodically, each time bringing a sense of warmth and encouragement that felt genuine and grounded. On one visit, he surprised Max with a robotics kit, which Max immediately began assembling with Barron's help. Ellie, not to be left out, proudly showed Barron her latest painting, which he admired with genuine enthusiasm. For Emma, these visits were a reminder of how far they had come. She often thought back to the days when she had struggled to put food on the table, when every bill felt like an insurmountable obstacle. Now, those days felt like a distant memory, replaced by a sense of hope and possibility. One evening, as Emma tucked Ellie into bed, her daughter asked a question that made her pause. "Why did Mr. Barron help us?" Ellie asked, her big eyes full of curiosity. Emma thought for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "Because he saw that we needed help and decided to do something about it," she said. "Sometimes people are in a position to make a difference, and the best ones choose to do it." Ellie nodded thoughtfully. "When I grow up, I want to help people too," she said. Emma felt a surge of pride. "I think you'll be amazing at it," she said, kissing Ellie's forehead. As the years went on, Emma's family continued to thrive. Max excelled in his studies, eventually earning a scholarship to a prestigious university where he pursued a degree in engineering. Ellie's artistic talents grew more refined, and she was accepted into an art academy where she honed her craft. Emma herself became a respected figure in her community, known for her tireless advocacy for single parents and her work with local nonprofits. She often reflected on how much her life had changed since that fateful day when she reached out to Barron Trump. His kindness had not only lifted her family out of despair, but had also set her on a path of purpose and fulfillment. Barron remained a friend and mentor, attending Max's high school graduation and Ellie's first art exhibit. At each milestone, he celebrated their achievements as if they were his own family. For Emma, his continued presence was a testament to the depth of his character and the sincerity of his commitment. And as Max and Ellie grew into confident, capable adults, they carried with them the lessons they had learned from both their mother and Barron. That kindness matters, that resilience can overcome even the toughest challenges, and that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can lead to the greatest changes. For Emma, those lessons were the greatest gift of all, a legacy she knew would endure for generations to come. Years later, as Emma reflected on her journey, she often marveled at the profound transformation her family had undergone. What had started as a desperate plea for help had blossomed into a story of resilience, growth, and the undeniable power of human connection. Barron Trump's influence had touched every aspect of their lives, but what resonated most deeply with Emma wasn't just his generosity, it was his belief in her. That belief had lit a fire within her that continued to burn brightly, fueling her ongoing mission to create a better future for her family and others like them. One spring morning, Emma stood at the entrance of a bustling community center, the place where she now worked full-time as a program director. The center was a hub of activity, offering everything from job training and childcare to financial literacy classes. Emma had helped design many of the programs herself, drawing from her own experiences to ensure that they addressed the real, everyday challenges faced by struggling parents. That morning, the center was hosting its annual open house, an event Emma had planned down to the last detail. It was a chance for local families to learn about the resources available to them and to connect with others in similar circumstances. The air buzzed with energy as children played in a supervised corner while their parents attended workshops or browsed informational booths. Emma spotted Carla, now a social worker and one of the center's most dedicated volunteers, leading a group of new attendees on a tour. Seeing Carla so confident and composed filled Emma with pride. She remembered their first meeting when Carla had been so unsure of her future, and she marveled at how far they both had come. At the heart of the open house was a panel discussion featuring stories from individuals whose lives had been changed through the center's programs. Emma had been reluctant to include herself as a speaker, feeling that her story was already well known, but her colleagues insisted. "You're the reason half of these people are here," Carla had said with a grin. "They need to hear it from you." When it was Emma's turn to speak, she stood at the podium and took a moment to look out at the crowd. She saw familiar faces, parents she had mentored, children who had grown up under the center's care, and she felt a wave of emotion. "I want to start by saying that I am no different from any of you," she began. "I've faced struggles, felt hopeless, and wondered if things would ever get better. But what I've learned is that even in our darkest moments, there is always a way forward, and often that way is through the kindness of others." She went on to share her story once again, this time focusing on the ripple effects of Barron Trump's help. "It wasn't just about the financial support," she said. "It was about someone believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. That belief gave me the courage to dream again, to fight for a better life for my kids and to help others do the same." Her words were met with applause, but what touched her most were the conversations that followed. One woman approached her, tears in her eyes, and said, "You give me hope. If you could do it, maybe I can too." Emma held the woman's hand tightly. "You can," she said, "and I'll be here to help you every step of the way." As the event wound down, Emma received a text from Barron. He had seen pictures from the open house on social media and wanted to congratulate her on its success. "You've built something incredible, Emma," he wrote. "You're changing lives." Emma smiled as she read the message, her heart full. Barron's unwavering support, even from afar, was a reminder of the extraordinary journey they had shared. It was proof that one act of kindness, one leap of faith, could ripple outward in ways no one could predict, creating a legacy of hope and resilience that would endure for generations. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on a single mom's plea to Barron Trump for help? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.